Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring the world of tarot
Oh,
through the lens of a very interesting book
yeah.
that we're just going to call Book T.
Right.
And yeah, you've probably seen tarot cards before, maybe even had a reading.
Yeah.
But today, we're really going to try to go beyond just fortune telling
Yeah.
and understand the symbolism and the hidden meanings within each of the cards as described by Book T.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about Book T is it's less about predicting the future.
Wow.
And it's more about kind of using the tarot to understand yourself and the energies at play in the universe. It really dives deep into the structure of the 78 cards, dividing them into the major and minor arcana.
Right, so major arcana, those are the heavy hitters,
Yeah.
the big life lessons, the archetypes. You got like the Fool. The Magician each linked to a letter, an astrological sign. But then we got the minor arcana split into those four familiar suits. Wands, Cups, Swords, and Pentacles. Now, Book T has this interesting take on the court cards,
Okay.
calling them the 16 royal cards, which sounds pretty important.
It does.
What's the significance of that name?
I think that it emphasizes their role in understanding the dynamics of each suit. They actually map onto the four letters of the Tetragrammaton, the Hebrew name of God, YHVH.
Okay.
It's like a code for understanding the hierarchy of power within each element.
Okay, so I'm picturing this as a team. You've got the kings, or knights as they're often called,
Yeah.
leading the charge with that initial spark of energy.
Right.
Then the queens step in to nurture and create structure, making sure things actually get done. Then the princes, they bridge that gap. They take that raw energy and translate it into tangible results. And finally, you have the princesses who bring everything to completion, adding that final impactful touch.
Yeah.
Is that a fair way to look at it?
That's an excellent way to visualize it. Book T describes the princess's power as potent and terrible,
Ooh.
but that doesn't necessarily mean bad, more like a force of nature you wouldn't want to underestimate.
Right, they have that, like, don't mess with me energy. But it's fascinating that their power only exists because of the kings, queens, and princes before them. It reminds us that every stage of the process is essential.
Exactly. Each court card plays a crucial role. And Book T doesn't just tell us about their hierarchy, it gets into some pretty fascinating details about each card's unique symbolism, from their crests to the animals associated with them.
I was totally captivated by those descriptions. Like the Queen of Wands chilling on her throne with a leopard at her side. That's some serious power imagery. It makes you wonder how those details might play out in a reading.
Absolutely. And Book T even mentions their hair and eye color.
Oh, wow.
For example, the Queen of Wands is described as having red gold hair and hazel eyes, while the Queen of Cups has brown hair, blue eyes, and a dreamy look. These details might seem trivial, but they can actually help us understand a card's personality and energy.
You know, that's what I love about tarot. It's not just about the big picture, but also about those nuanced details. They can add so much depth to a reading. It's almost like getting to know a character in a story, understanding their motivations and complexity.
Exactly. And Book T emphasizes that these details can change depending on whether a card is well dignified or ill dignified in a reading.
Okay.
So the Queen of Wands, with all her power and charisma, could become tyrannical and domineering if surrounded by negative influences.
It's a reminder that even the most positive qualities can have a shadow side. It all depends on the context.
Exactly. But before we dive into dignities, I think we need to talk about the aces.
Yep.
Book T calls them the root of the powers of their respective elements: fire, water, air, and earth.
I'm intrigued by that phrase, root of the powers. It suggests that they're the source, the foundation for everything else in the suit.
That's precisely it. They're the purest, most potent expressions of each element's energy. Imagine them as seeds containing the potential for everything else to grow.
Okay, let's break that down. The Ace of Wands, for example, is described as the root of the powers of fire, representing willpower, action, and strength. But what does that actually mean for someone encountering this card in a reading?
Well, think about the qualities of fire. It's energetic, passionate, and transformative. So the Ace of Wands could signify a time of new beginnings, a burst of inspiration, or the courage to pursue a new venture.
So if I'm dealing with a career question and the Ace of Wands pops up, it could be a sign that it's time to go for that promotion or finally launch that business idea I've been dreaming of.
Exactly. It's a call to action, an invitation to embrace your potential and step into your power.
That's so empowering. Now, the Ace of Cups, root of the powers of water, has a completely different vibe. It's about emotions, intuition, and deep connections. How would that play out in a reading?
The Ace of Cups speaks to matters of the heart. It could signify the blossoming of a new romance, a deepening of existing relationships, or a surge of creativity and inspiration.
I can see how that would be relevant for someone struggling with a creative block. It's like a reminder to tap into their emotions.
Yeah.
And let their intuition guide them.
Exactly. It's about nurturing your inner world and allowing your feelings to flow freely.
Then we have the Ace of Swords, the root of the powers of air, described as invoked force. That word invoked makes me think of intentionality and focus.
You're on the right track. The Ace of Swords represents the power of the mind, clarity, truth-seeking, and the ability to make decisions. It's about using your intellect to cut through illusions and get to the heart of the matter.
So if this card appears in a reading, it could be a sign to trust your instincts and make a bold move, even if it means challenging the status quo.
Precisely. It's about using your mental acuity to create positive change.
And finally, we have the Ace of Pentacles, the root of the powers of earth. This one feels very grounded, very practical.
It is. The Ace of Pentacles represents material wealth, security, and abundance. It's about building a solid foundation and manifesting your goals in the physical world.
So for someone worried about finances, this card could be a reassuring sign that things are looking up, that opportunities for growth and prosperity are on the horizon.
Yes, it encourages you to be patient and trust that your efforts will bear fruit.
So we have these potent aces setting the stage for each suit, but then there's the rest of those numbered cards in between, 2 through 10. And that's where Big T brings in the decans, right?
Exactly. Now things are about to get really cosmic. Each of these 36 cards, 2 through 10 of each suit, corresponds to one of the 36 decans of the zodiac, each representing a 10-degree portion of a zodiac sign, and each decan is further linked to a specific planet and day of the week.
Whoa, so we're talking about this intricate web of correspondences. It sounds a bit overwhelming. Can you break it down for us? How do these decans actually influence the meaning of the cards?
It is a lot to unpack, but Book T makes it surprisingly accessible. Let's take the Six of Wands, for example. It's linked to Jupiter, Leo, and Thursday, and kind of victory. Now, Jupiter expands things. Leo is about courage and leadership, and Thursday is associated with good fortune. So when you combine those energies with the inherent action of the wand suit, you get this sense of triumph after a struggle, a feeling of pride and accomplishment. It's like that moment when you finally reach a goal you've been working towards.
Okay, I see how those pieces fit together. So it's not just about memorizing keywords, but understanding the deeper layers of meaning that come from the decan's planets and even days of the week.
Right.
What's another example that illustrates this?
Well, let's look at the Nine of Swords. This one's linked to Mars, Gemini, and Tuesday. Mars brings aggression and conflict. Gemini can be anxious and overthinking. And Tuesday is often associated with challenges. Combine that with the Sword suit, which deals with the mind and intellect, and you get despair and cruelty. This card can represent mental anguish, betrayal, and feeling trapped in negative thought patterns.
Oof, that's a heavy one. It makes you realize that even with all the potential for positive energy, sometimes we face those dark nights of the soul.
Exactly. But Book T reminds us that even in those challenging times, the tarot can provide guidance and help us navigate those difficult emotions. It's about understanding the energy at play so we can make conscious choices.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay,
I'm curious about the Ten of Cups. It's linked to Mars, Pisces, and Monday. Now, Mars seems out of place here since it's usually associated with conflict. How does that fit with the Ten of Cups, which is supposed to represent perfected success and happiness?
that's a great question. You're right, Mars is often associated with conflict, but it also represents action and drive. In the context of the Ten of Cups, Mars's energy is channeled towards achieving emotional fulfillment and lasting happiness. Pisces brings in the element of compassion and empathy, while Monday, ruled by the moon, adds an emotional depth. So it's not just about superficial happiness, but a deep sense of peace and contentment that comes from aligning with your true self.
Wow, that's beautiful. It's like finally finding your place in the world and feeling a sense of belonging and connection.
Exactly. And that sense of belonging is something that resonates throughout all the cards, even the court cards, which we were discussing earlier.
Kings, queens, princes, and princesses. I'm still thinking about that YHVH formula and how it relates to their hierarchy. It's such a fascinating concept. But I'm wondering how it actually plays out in a reading. Can you give us an example of how someone might interpret the court cards using this formula?
Absolutely. Let's say you're doing a reading for someone who's asking about their career path.
Okay.
If the Knight of Wands appears, representing that initial spark of inspiration and action, it could be a sign that they have a burning desire to start a new project or take on a leadership role.
So they have the energy and enthusiasm,
Yeah.
but they might need a plan. That's where the Queen of Wands comes in, right?
Exactly. She provides the structure and stability needed to
Yeah.
make that vision a reality. She's the one who says, okay, great idea, but let's create a strategy and make sure you have the resources to succeed.
So they have the spark and the plan. But now they need to actually make it happen? Onto the Prince of Wands.
Precisely. He's the one who takes action, putting those plans into motion.
Yeah.
And bringing that vision to life. He's the builder, the doer, the one who gets things done.
And finally, you have the Princess of Wands,
Yeah.
who adds that final touch of magic, making sure the project has a lasting impact.
Yes, she brings the energy of completion and transformation. She's the one who asks, how can we make this truly meaningful? How can we inspire others and leave a positive mark on the world?
It's amazing how each court card builds on the energy of the previous one, creating this dynamic process of manifestation.
It is, and that's just one example. You can apply this YHVH formula to any area of life, whether it's relationships, creativity, or personal growth. It helps us understand the different stages of development and the energies involved in achieving our goals.
It's like having a roadmap for understanding human dynamics and how we interact with the world around us.
Exactly, and it's important to remember that these court cards can represent both internal and external forces. So the Knight of Wands could represent your own inner drive and ambition, or it could represent someone else who comes into your life with that energy.
Oh, that's a really helpful distinction. So it's not just about reading the cards literally,
Yeah.
but understanding how they relate to our own personal experiences and the people we interact with.
Precisely. It's about finding the connections and weaving together a story that resonates with the querent's life.
Speaking of stories, I'm eager to hear more about the specific divination method outlined in Book T. It sounds like it takes things to a whole new level
Yeah.
with its 5 operations.
It does, and those operations introduce even more layers of symbolism and complexity, incorporating astrology, the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's like a masterclass in esoteric knowledge.
I can't wait to delve into that. But before we get too cosmic, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to explore the fascinating world of tarot divination according to Book T. All right, we're back and ready to dive into this world of tarot divination according to Book T. Now, you mentioned 5 operations, which sound a bit like a top-secret mission. What's the first step in cracking this code?
Well, the first operation is all about getting a clear picture of the querent's current situation.
Okay.
You start by dividing the deck into 4 piles, representing the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton, YHVH, which we discussed earlier.
So we're already tapping into those deeper layers of Kabbalistic energy right from the start. What happens next?
You find the significator card, the one representing the person asking the question. And the pile it lands in reveals the general theme of their situation. Is it related to work, love, finances, or something else?
It's like getting a quick snapshot of what's going on in their world. But what if the significator lands in a pile that doesn't seem to make sense? Does that mean the reading is off?
Actually, Book T specifically addresses that. It says that if this initial reading isn't accurate, it's best to abandon the whole divination.
Really?
No point in continuing if you're not on the right track.
Wow. So it really emphasizes the importance of that initial connection
Yeah.
with both the cards and the querent's energy. So let's say the first operation is a success. We have a good sense of the situation. What's next?
Operation number 2 takes us into the realm of astrology.
Okay.
We deal the cards into 12 piles, representing the 12 astrological houses. Each house governs a different area of life, from personality and self-identity to relationships and partnerships to career and public image.
This is making me think of those birth charts you see with all the different planets and houses. So are we essentially mapping out the different areas of the querent's life that are being impacted by the question?
That's exactly it. It's about seeing which areas are most energized or where potential challenges might arise. And then you select the house most relevant to the question and interpret those cards using counting and pairing techniques to create a narrative.
So if the question is about finding a new job, you'd focus on the 10th house, which is associated with career and public image.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about the third operation?
Operation 3 goes even deeper into astrology. But this time, we deal the cards into 12 piles, representing the 12 signs of the zodiac. This adds another layer of nuance because we're not just looking at houses, but the specific astrological energies that might be influencing this situation. Again, you choose the sign most relevant to the question and interpret the cards in that pile.
So if the question is about a romantic relationship and the querent's Venus, the planet of love, is in Aries, You would focus on the cards that landed in the Aries pile.
Precisely.
It's like we're building a multi-dimensional picture of the situation,
Here.
using both houses and signs to gain a deeper understanding.
That's a great way to put it. Now, operation number 4 gets a little more abstract.
Okay.
You find the significator card and place it in the center. Then arrange the next 36 cards in a circle around it.
Okay, so I'm picturing the significator as the sun, and all the other cards are planets orbiting around it, each exerting its own gravitational pull.
That's a perfect analogy. This layout helps you see how the different energies and influences are interacting and playing out around the querent. And of course, use counting and pairing to weave together a narrative based on the cards' positions and symbolism.
So it's like we're zooming out to get a panoramic view of this situation.
Exactly. And then we reach the 5th and final operation, which takes us into the realm of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. This is where things can get really mystical.
Okay, I have to admit, this is where I get a little lost. Can you give us a quick refresher on the Tree of Life
Yeah,
and how it relates to tarot?
of course. In Kabbalah, the Tree of Life is a diagram that represents the structure of the universe and the flow of divine energy. It has 10 Sephiroth, each representing a different aspect of God or the creative force. Now, in this operation, we deal the cards onto the Tree of Life, with each pile corresponding to one of the Sephiroth. It's a way of understanding the spiritual forces at play in the situation.
So we're essentially looking at the bigger picture, the cosmic context in which this question is unfolding. It's almost like we're tapping into the divine plan.
That's one way to look at it. And as with the previous operations, you choose the Cyphera most relevant to the question and interpret those cards to gain further insight.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. 5 operations each with a different layout and a different system of knowledge. It's amazing how Book T weaves together all these different traditions to create sort of comprehensive approach to divination.
It really is a testament to the depth and complexity of both tarot and the esoteric traditions it draws from. But what I appreciate most about Book T is that it doesn't present these operations as a rigid set of rules. It encourages the reader to adapt them to experiment and find what works best for their own intuitive process.
So it's not about memorizing a formula, but using these techniques as a springboard for developing your own unique approach to the cards.
Exactly. It's about finding the method that resonates with you and allows you to connect with the cards in a meaningful way. And that's what makes tarot such a powerful tool for self-discovery.
I couldn't agree more. So after spending all this time with Book T, what is your biggest takeaway? What's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
For me, it's the emphasis on the interconnectedness of everything. The way Book T weaves together astrology, Kabbalah, numerology, and even geomancy to eliminate the symbolism of the tarot is just mind-blowing. It reminds us that we're not just isolated individuals, but part of a vast and interconnected web of energy and meaning.
I love that. It's not just about memorizing keywords, but understanding the bigger picture and how all these pieces fit together to create a tapestry of meaning.
And that's what makes tarot so much more than just fortune-telling. It's a tool for exploring our own depths, understanding the forces at play in our lives, and ultimately connecting with something greater than ourselves.
Beautifully said. So for those of you listening, as you continue your journey with tarot, remember to stay curious, keep exploring, and trust your own intuition. The answers you seek are already within you, waiting to be discovered. And who knows, maybe Book T will become a trusted guide along the way.
I have a feeling it will.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into Book T and the world of tarot. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.